Why is this Mac using 153 gigabytes of system data when this Mac is only using 29?
In this tutorial, I'm going to walk through the steps of reclaiming space from your system data.
More importantly, when I click Manage, why don't I get any options that tell me where I can delete some of this system data? Get documents, but that's not what I'm really looking for. System data seems to be its own thing.
If you've wondered where the system data exists on your computer, well, you're not alone. This is easily one of the most common questions in Mac communities on the internet. In fact, I'd argue this isn't because these people are incapable or not understanding. In fact, they're looking in the correct place. It's just that Apple does not communicate clearly where you should be able to delete or at least manage this data.
Let's dig in and we'll talk about how you can claim some of your space back from the dreaded system data. The system data is the tally of the contents of the library, system, library again, the USR directory, and invisible files found in the user directory. 3 of the 4 can be really managed by the user, whereas the system cannot. If you're confused why the library appears twice in this list, that is because there's not one library, but at least 2, the first being at the root of your computer right here in your boot drive, and then the one in your user directory or any other user directories on your computer. Let's start talking about the system data. We can see the sizes, and that is because I already have gone to the view, and if I go to show view options at the root of this window, I have calculate all sizes on. If I uncheck this, the only sizes that are calculated are individual documents. Reclicking it, it calculates the size. I've already done this because it takes sometimes a minute or 2 for it to tally up all the sizes. We'll start with the system directory because this is a directory that you can't really manage. This is where macOS itself resides. Under modern macOS, Apple File System is a container format for all the partitions of your disk drive. The system portion exists on a separate volume that cannot be manipulated by the user. This is for security reasons, so the OS itself is much more secure from attack vectors. To the user, it appears like this is one disk drive. If you notice, like this whole thing kind of looks and acts like just one giant hard drive. Well, I don't know why they use the hard drive icon anymore. This is an SSD, but you get the idea. This is my Apple Silicon Mac, and this is my work computer, and I want to reclaim some of that space. The system directory is not the place to do it. This might vary from computer to computer. Don't worry too much. It's never going to be that much. So let's move on to our first library. If we open up the library, we can see that there's quite a bit of stuff in here. And this is the global library that is accessible to all users. Things like fonts, audio plugins, support libraries for applications such as the Adobe CC Suite, assets for Final Cut Pro, and audio plugins end up in here. As you can see, there's the audio directory. Inside here, we have some audio plugins. And if we were to go down to our fonts, we can see I have a lot of fonts installed. The bulk of the application libraries will end up in the application support directory. This will be the area that probably takes up the most space for most people in the library. So if we sort by size, and I have the developer folder takes up a little more, that's because I have a bunch of developer tools installed. Application support, of course, Adobe's eating the most space. So let's start with deleting something that we'd normally delete manually, like an audio plugin. I already know I have one in here that I don't need anymore. So I already know where this resides, but it's a VST, and that's the machine plugin for the machine control surface. Just move those to trash. It'll ask for my password. And if I check components, same thing again. I don't need that. And just make sure it did not install any others. And that's right there. I'm going to save about 300 megabytes. You have to be careful when deleting things out of your library because, again, these are all things that are used by applications to function. Right now, I know that I've already removed Blackmagic Design, DaVinci Resolve, but for some reason, this didn't get deleted. So I'm just going to move this directly into my trash. Again, going to have to do this. This is how the process we'd go looking for orphaned applications of things that we do not use anymore. Again, I want to stress, be careful when you're deleting things out of here. Some things obviously will not break if you were to remove fonts, although you can do that through your font library manager, or deleting things like desktop pictures. That would not harm anything in the long run. You might lose your favorite desktop picture if you were to go in here and start just deleting random desktop photos. Our next stop is the library in our user directory. And this is where we're going to see the most gains, because this is the biggest culprit. As we can see, it's 276 gigabytes. It's almost 277, to be honest. You can see that it's grayed out, and that's because this is an invisible folder. When we're in our user directory, or any directory for that matter, we can hit Command-Shift, period, and it will hide and show our invisible files. So I hit it again, and then now suddenly I have all those invisible things again, and there's my library. I'll sort by size, so it appears at the top again. Now if we open this up, it will have a very similar structure to what we saw before, some of the same folders, even including application support again. Let's dig in. The containers are freeze and sandbox states for macOS, generally from the Mac App Store or other applications programmed in that way. If you happen to delete an app by dragging it to the trash, for this example, let's delete NBA 2K22 Arcade Edition. Move that into the trash. Close the window. And guess what? There's still a freeze state, and it takes up 4 gigabytes for this application. You can end up with orphaned containers for applications you no longer have. 4 gigabytes is not insignificant, so let's just move that one to the trash. And we can continue to do this for other applications that we no longer have installed on our computer. This is kind of a tedious process, but deleting things from the containers folder is not a problem for programs you've already deleted. You'll probably notice that Docker is eating up a lot of space, and that's a development/DevOps tool that is important for many types of developer. Yeah, it eats up a lot of space, but Docker gives you tools to manage this through the command line. You probably wouldn't want to do it here, and if you already know what Docker is, you would already know probably how to manage it. In the containers, it might actually make some sense to view this alphabetically so we can more easily locate the programs that we've deleted. Now let's just go back to the root of the library and look at application support, because this is another place that is eating up a lot of space. So let's just expand it, and we'll see that Steam, which is the game store library, is eating up the most space. That is because all the Steam apps end up installed here. You can go in here and manage the games and delete them through this area. You could delete it through Steam. And actually, if we revisit about this Mac and storage, click Manage, and look at Applications, we will see that Tomb Raider shows up here, so we could install it from this area as well. Even those Steam games show up as an application in the Applications area, these are still tabulated in your system data. Also, if you were to go to Documents, you can check the file browser, and again, you would see the library, and you can see all these folders again here. We could go into Application Support, see this, and navigate this way too. This is another way we could be navigating and deleting folders and continue deleting from here. So we could use this, but the downside is it's a little trickier to use if you're used to Mac hotkeys, like typing the file names in to reach it. To demonstrate what I actually mean when I say that, because I know that's a little confusing, if I wanted to go here and open up this application folder, I already know that there's Tower right here. This is something that's an orphan from an old version of an application I do use, but these are very old versions of this application. They're from 2017, and in fact, if I open this up, we can even look at this is a version from 2014. Obviously, this isn't something I need clogging up my computer right now. Since I already knew this in advance and typing the whole file name as opposed to just hitting the T key, if I start typing Tower, it'll take me directly to that folder. And let's also go here, Command J, calculate sizes so we can actually see what we're going to save. And then we're going to move to trash, and it's gone. Again, you will want to tread carefully, but you can seriously save some space here. And in the written version of this guide, I've listed some common places to check, like your Steam library. There's some pretty big culprits that are common, but I don't feel like going over every single one because I want to keep moving forward. Again, looking for orphaned applications is the way to go. Ooh, 1Password 4. Now, that's something I didn't know ahead of time for this video. Let's just look at that, and yeah, the 2014, the last thing is 2018. Oh, look at that. I'm just going to move that to the trash. So that is a case of an orphan file. In real time, I just discovered looking in this folder, trying to save space. You can get really carried away, and some of these are not going to be the biggest wins. Some will be pretty big. It all depends on what applications you have installed. Again, see the written version of this guide in the description of this video for some common places where you can find applications that tend to eat up big space. The library will also be filled with some usually other big places, like photos can eat up a lot of space, and caches, that's a pretty big one. We can go in here. Caching are temporary files written by applications that are usually safe to delete. I'll cover in just a minute a better and probably easier way to do this, because the caches are a kind of a bit of a grab bag. You can screw up any open documents you haven't saved in certain applications by deleting all the caches, or at least caches for those programs. Log files also can eat up a lot of space. These are files that contain logs written in entry, useful for developers and troubleshooting, although I'm pretty sure that some of these are not that useful. You can also just in here go and sort by date modified is a good way to go. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not useful. We could do those two pretty easily, delete those, and it's not going to harm anything. Grammarly has just a folder in here for some damn reason. Delete that. Atom. Even if I look inside here, yeah, that's another empty folder. And then whatever NGL client is, just wrote a hell of a lot of just mess on my computer. Things that doesn't need to be around, even if they're not very big. So you can go nuts here and start deleting files to reclaim space too. But again, we'll come back and show easier way, just like the caches. Again, in the library, there's quite a few other places. Sometimes in some of these folders, some oddball things can eat up a lot of space. You can usually search on the internet and figure out if it's something important. Don't go just deleting ones you don't know what are, like Core IO Media, because I believe this is something to do. Oh, yeah, with QuickTime, except for I'm not using these anymore. This is iRun, SnapCamera, and other plugins that were meant so I use my phone with QuickTime as a webcam, and these are various applications. So again, I can just go in here and move these to trash, and there we go. I think that's enough looking at the library. You're getting the strategy. It's the same thing over and over. How old is this? Is it something I still need? And then deleting it. Here's a good one, Parallels. I'm on an Apple Silicon Mac, and this is from 2019. Apple Silicon didn't exist back then, and the old versions of Parallels Desktop are not compatible with this computer. Move that into the trash. Yep, that's it. So I really need to quit talking about this part. But the library is going to be where you can get a lot of big wins and delete a lot of crap. Before we close out, I'd like to issue a warning about most disk cleaner utilities. If you're looking to understand your storage a bit more, you can use old standbys like go to Mac Update, and we will look up Disk Inventory X. This is a old school Mac program. I can't believe it still works under the latest macOS. Unsafe download, whatever. I trust that this works. Just open this up, double click. Nope. Gonna have to whitelist this by right clicking open because it's so old it's not signed. And we will look at my drive. And this is another way for us to view the computer's contents. This will take a while as it'll have to read your entire boot drive or drive that you're investigating. It'll build up a graphic depiction of your hard drive or SSD. While that's happening, I'm going to bring up the other utility that I'd like to show you, Onyx. Onyx is another utility that's been around and it's always been free, but you probably want to visit the developer website because each version pertains to the version of macOS you have. Each version will not work if you download, say, this one. I'm on right now Monterey, and we know that, so don't download this version, download the correct version. So I'll download that. It's pretty small. Using the magic of film editing, let's skip ahead. So now that I have Onyx launched, Onyx is a collection of classic maintenance utilities. A lot of these are CLI commands that macOS already has. This just exposes them and makes them a lot easier and automates them. What we're looking at mostly is this maintenance panel, because this is the one that, for this video, is good for clearing out a bunch of old junk. I'm going to do the cleaning part, and right now what I want to do is just clean out the bare minimum of stuff, empty my trash, clear the recents, get rid of the junk, rebuild the font cache, maintenance scripts, get rid of those logs and reports. That should clear out a bunch of the junk items, and fonts cache and other caches will help us save a lot of space. Click Run Tasks. Computer will need to restart after this. I can't do that since I'm recording the video, but I'd click Continue, and this would clear out more space on my computer. Using the magic of film editing, we'll skip ahead once Disk Inventory X has built us a preview of our Mac. Disk Inventory X has finally built out a preview, and this is a graphic preview to see what's really eating up space on my computer. As we can see, this entire area right here is Tomb Raider, this big old blue mess, and all the files that make up Tomb Raider. With everything in that directory got colored in here. This right here is my Docker raw file. The Docker raw file is a container of containers. Don't worry about it. This is that same file that used the command line utility for this application to manage this file. This is useful because just by glancing at this graphic, I can tell if I wanted to save space, Docker is a great place for me to start. These two color blobs occupy a significant amount of storage space versus clicking on one of these random image files. So these are all files that don't really eat up that much space. I click over here, see what that is. Oh, that's just Xcode. And these are various applications in the applications folder. You can see these based on a descending order of what's eating up space. Anyhow, this is a pretty cool way to visualize things that are using up a lot of space on your Mac. You can see that various caches are eating up some space. This is the DYLD, and do not delete this. This is actually part of macOS and is installed when you install it. These are built-out runtime assists for running macOS applications. This is a little bit beyond me as I'm not a macOS developer, more of a UI developer. I just know that that's really important. So don't always go around wanting to delete just things that are just because they're big. That's the takeaway here. Again, I can see that these two simulators runtimes for iOS are each eating up 4 gigabytes. If I wanted to delete these, I would use Xcode. I'm a developer, so I already know kind of what these things are used for. And then you can keep clicking around and seeing the random things on your computer. There's Adobe. I need to delete you. I hate you, Adobe. Anyhow, that's another thing. Oh, I actually forgot one thing. Let's go back to my user directory. The invisible folders that also exist in here. Here's the Android folder. This is for Android development. I can see where all my Node versions end up for Node.js. So going by date modified, I can see some old invisible files. If I were to go through these invisible files, I could delete this crash log, as I know that's not important. Invisible folders outside the library and maybe some development tools usually are pretty small. It's always good to check it out. I'm not really using Atom anymore, but I could delete this if I wanted to, especially if I were to go into my applications and delete Atom. Just go here, and if I were to move this into the trash, this folder would likely remain. So again, it's all about those orphaned folders. Looks like I was pretty victorious. I deleted a bunch of stuff. I did a few things off camera just to save some space, and also there's some potentially work-sensitive things that I canned. Same goes for applications. Mostly I just deleted NBA 2K. I installed it just for this video to show that it uses quite a bit of space with that container folder, but that also cleared up some space. So overall, I'd say I did pretty good, as I doubled the amount of free space on this computer. I should clarify that there are legitimate utilities that assist you on this that are paid. Do check out independent review sites before installing one of these applications, as this is a space where there's a weird amount of junk or scammy type applications. That brings us to our close. Hopefully you were able to find this useful and clear up some space on your Mac. As always, thanks for watching.